All right, guys, welcome to the Split Screen Videos Producer's Guide template here. We are in Premiere Pro right now, and I'm just going to walk you through how I've set this up for optimal workflow. Now, down in our bottom left corner here, we have our project. Now, we have an audio folder. Right now, there's nothing in the audio folder. We're going to be loading all this in. So right now, we're going to be starting from scratch from where I start, where I open up a project template, and then this is what you see. So all of this is saved. This is exactly what you're going to be getting here in the Split Screen Videos Producer's Guide. Down here we have some grids. So these are all of our grids. We have a solo screen outline. We have 2 split screen vertical grid, 3, 4, 4 horizontal, 5, 6 horns, 6 horns horizontal, 7 horns, 8 horns, full grid for the full big band that I personally use, and a full grid big band for that with a feature, so just a soloist in the center there. Now these are all pre-built out. I'll just open up a few of them here. As you can see, they're all legacy titles. This is 2. We'll do, we'll go over to 5 here. Here's 5. And we have 7. And now all of these I just wanted to point out here. You can click on this line and move it left or right with your tools over here in legacy titles. It's just like your transform tools in your editor. You just select with the pointer tool. You can even add text here if you wanted. Just get creative with it. Adjust the position like I just did. I'm just going to undo that so that my template is back to normal. You can even adjust the color of it over here. So you can make that red. You can select all of them like this, make them all red by selecting a color, whatever you want to do. We can make it blue. Now I'm just going to undo all of that because I just want to keep them white. Now last grid, here's the grid with a full big band and a feature. So we're just going to close up our grids folder here. We're going to get back to that later on in this video. Now we're going to go to nested big band sections. Now this is where all of our smaller videos are going to be hosted. So we're going to use these screens to drag them out onto our timeline in a little bit once we start building out our sequences and our screens that we are going to want to edit into a full video later on. So this is where we're going to use those. This is where those small videos are going to show up. But first we need to place those small videos into each little section of the screen here. Now I have them all saved. That's what a template is. I have all the positions saved for you. So for all of those grids that we just looked at where it was 3, it's going to say left, middle, right, and then we'll open that up right now. So for 3 screens, it's going to be left, middle, right. So I'm just going to click on left, double click on these, middle, double click on right. And basically we're going to be able to fill this screen, and then it's going to pop up in our nested big band sections already placed where we want, and the grid is already going to be there as well. So I'm just going to close those up, and we're going to get started by loading in everything for our project. So I have a video folder here. Currently it's empty, but now it's going to be time to import our videos. So this is super simple. What I'm going to do here is where you've downloaded all of your videos once you've gotten them from all of the musical members that are involved in your split screen video project. Now here I have stuff from the Generation Gap Jazz Orchestra project that I just recently worked on. Now I have, in this specific one, there's 3 different projects. So I've got Algorithm was a tune, Nika's Dream was a tune, and Inner Urge was a tune. So we're going to be doing Inner Urge today, and we're only going to be building out a few screens here until we kind of get the process of it. So I'm going to take all of my videos, as you can see how we were organizing them before. I have all my rhythm section here. We have our saxes here. We have our trombones and our trumpets. All of our videos that we need are in here. So I'm just going to drag that folder into our video folder. Now they're going to import. It's going to take a little bit depending on how many videos you have, but it should only take about a minute or 2. So as you can see, In here, we have all of our videos stored. Now we also need our final audio, and as you can see, we don't have our audio there. So I'm just gonna come up to where I've saved the final master and mix for this specific project, and I'm just gonna drag that into the audio here. So as you can see, populates up into our audio folder. So since this is our final master, we can actually come out, I'm just gonna close this down. And one last thing I wanted to point out is this final video sequence right here. This little icon right here means it's a sequence. So currently right now we're not editing anything because we don't have a sequence open. So we're just gonna open final video, and here I have a bunch of stuff saved so that, you know, really only our final audio is gonna be playing in track 1, A1 here, once we load that in. So we can actually do that now. And we want to make sure that this is lined up all the way at 0. So we're gonna zoom in here. Looks like the very beginning of our track is lined up completely at 0 because we are gonna use this as a resource when we're lining up our audio in just a minute here. So we've loaded that in. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start using our videos from our video folder and building out our placeholders. So to start out, I kind of want to do let's do a rhythm section for videos, and we'll do for horizontal. So I'm gonna click open, I'm gonna double click open my sequences here from my placeholders folder. As you can see, we're in the placeholders folder. I'm going to start with the top left. We're gonna go bottom left, we're gonna go top right, and then bottom right. So I'm going to come into my top left sequence. Now what we're going to do, and this is going to make this so much easier for you on the back end here, we're only going to line up our audio and video for each musician one time. So the way that we're going to do that, the very first time that you are using a video from a musician, we're going to just take this final audio, load it into the A1 track, make sure it's lined up at 0, just like we did in our final video sequence just a minute ago, and we're going to go back to our top left. So as you can see, we've loaded in our final audio and mix to all 4 of these sections here within our 4 screens horizontal placeholder. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come down to our videos, and we're going to start placing our videos in the sequences here. So top left, I kind of want drums to be top left. So I'm going to place the drums up here. As you can see, they're in here. We're just gonna reduce the scale of this so that we get a nice looking shot here. I might even scale it up a little bit and move it over so that the drums are kind of filling up the entire screen there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. So now what we're gonna do is line up our audio, and we're only gonna have to do this one time. And as you can hear, our audio starts with the drums and piano as well. So we're just going to line up these drums basically on that first downbeat. As soon as there's music being played, that's where our drums are going to be. I'm just going to lower the volume here a little bit, and I'm just going to play this out. My apologies there. I actually loaded in the wrong audio. So I'm going to load in Inner Urge. Inner Urge is the final audio that we want. So I'm just going to replace that really quick. Actually, since I deleted that audio, it already deleted it. So here we are. The very first part of Inner Urge is lined up. This is a drum feature. So as you can see, he's lined up there. Audio timing, his audio isn't playing, but if I did have his audio playing, you'll hear some more raw type of audio here. So we're just going to mute that, and all we really need is this final audio, and it's important that the final audio is in A1 because that's what's going to show up in your nested sequences as the audio. So we want to be able to see this final audio here from our placeholders into our nested sequences so that when we're seeing it on our final timeline, we're going to see it and be able to match it up 100%. But lining everything up at 0, 0, 0 at the very beginning of every single sequence here is going to ensure that we are going to be lined up, moving forward through this project. So we have our drums lined up. Now let's go to bottom left. We're just going to load in our final audio here. Bottom left, let's do bass. So we have our bass player here. And just listen through your audio. And right here is where our bass is going to come in. So I'm going to get my bass player kind of lined up here. And right there on that audio note. Yep, that's lined up. So right there, you just got to listen through your final track and make sure that you're lining it up correctly like that. So what we're going to do is just kind of rescale and resize our bass player here so that he is lined up. And as you can see, his audio is lined up with the video. So now we're just going to keep repeating that process. Here we go, top right. Top right, I think I would like to feature the guitar. Now our guitar audio is pretty quiet, as you can see, so we're going to need to kind of just check out what he's doing here. So let's rescale him down so that we can see him playing. So with this particular one, I think it'll be easier to line him up on the end. So this is a little trick that I do sometimes. Basically, he is just holding that note until he's finished there. So we're going to actually take his final note and just line it up. So I think we need to go just a little bit more, because he's playing that last line there. There we go. That's lined up. So we're just going to drag this out, and we have our guitar. So last but not least, for this 4-person section here, we're going to put our piano in. So here we go, piano. Let's just scale him down a little bit. And I'm just doing all these adjustments in the effects controls panel up here on the top left. You can adjust scale, you can adjust position, rotation, all of that stuff. You can adjust opacity. And let's just try to find a spot where this is going to be lined up here. Again, just listening through our final audio here. So right there, he's going to be playing. Yeah, he's playing that line as well. So, yep, he's lined up and we're all good to go. So here are all of our placeholder sequences, and this is where the magic happens. So we're going to go into our nested sections, and we're going to go, since we were doing 4 screens horizontal, we're going to double click to open that up, and boom, there you have it. All 4 screens are loaded in. As you can see in our audio down here, we're also 100% lined up as well. So, we've done that, and if you double click these sequences, you're going to go back, as you can see that highlighted bottom left here. So I'm going to go back to my 4 screens horizontal, double click on top left. Here we go. That brings you to your top left nested sequence. And then what I've done here, this is an easy way to just ensure that you're going to have a grid for this entire screen when we go into the final edit. I've just put the grid from our grids folder for split horizontal on top of here. And that has basically going to ensure that we're going to have a grid the entire time that this screen is up. So now that we have built out our 4 horizontal sequence. Let's come back up here to our final video. We're gonna put our final audio for Inner Urge up here in our A1 track, and we're actually going to lock that because we don't want that to go anywhere. So you just do that by clicking this little toggle track lock over here. We're going to come over to our nested sequences, and we have our 4 screens horizontal. Now sometimes it drags out just slightly, you know, it's a very small, it's showing just part of that sequence. So just simply drag to the left and right until you see these little triangles here that tell you that you're at the end of your sequence. That's the very beginning. We're going to make sure that's dragged all the way to 0, 0. And then really quick, we're just going to play a little bit of that. Let's actually get into it a little bit more when everybody's playing. There you go. Everybody's lined up, and now we can use this screen for our final video, and we can use this whenever we want to see that based on how we want to cut it up. And of course that's personal preference, you know, on your part of when and who you want to see at specific times based on your final audio. That's where your creative freedom kind of comes into play, and that's where you can get really fun and create some really fun split screen videos that are super interactive and are going to keep the viewer engaged the entire length of the track. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to build out a slightly different split screen, and I like to call these our final nested sequences that are in our final video sequence. I like to call these our screens, and we're just going to be cutting back and forth between screens. So we're going to set up one more, and then we're maybe going to cut a little bit and just show you the process of how that works. And, you know, you just from there repeat this process with your placeholders and build out as many screens as you want. And basically what you can do, let's say you want another 4 screen horizontal screen here, you can simply right click this placeholder, you can duplicate it, and then you can rename this. So I'm going to say 4 screen horizontal. Let's go with trumpets. You know, that's what we're going to go with next as a potential next option. We want to see all 4 trumpets in this format instead of split in 4 vertically. So what we do is we just duplicate that sequence by right clicking on it. Duplicate, we just did that. So you come to your drop down menu, and then here we can take these sequences, basically delete out our video and just line up our trumpets here. And as you can see, it's not going to affect our other sequence here. So I'm just going to close this panel, accidentally open that up. So as you can see, I'm just going to have the bottom left sequence open for the one that we duplicated, and I'm just going to load in a trumpet video just so you can see that it's not going to affect the one that you just did. So I'm just going to load this trumpet video in. I'm going to resize it real quick, and what you're going to see happen is in my other bottom left sequence, which came from the 4 screens horizontal, which we just did, that is still the bass player. And then if I go back and open up, go back to our final video sequence here, you can see that our bottom left is still not affected. So that's another way that you can take these screens and basically duplicate them for however many you want. You know, you can duplicate 4 screens horizontal and then just rename this placeholder to whatever you want and then feature whoever you want in these sequences. It's not going to affect the thing that you just did. You just need to make sure that you duplicate those. So I'm just going to actually delete that. I don't really want that. And we're going to try to build out a trombone vertical placeholder here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to open up our 4 screens vertical and we're going to click left, left middle, right, right middle. Now I'm just going to switch that because I would like to keep things in order. So it's going to go left, left middle, right. So what I'm going to do, we're going to repeat this process. We're going to drag in our final mix here of Inner Urge. And I'm just going to drag this final audio out into each sequence. We're going to come back down to our videos. We're going to come into our trombones. So left, naturally in a big band, is usually trombone 2. So I'm going to load in trombone 2 here. I'm just going to resize him really quick just to make sure that he's filling up the entire screen, and then maybe move him over so that he has a good framing and we can see a little bit more of the horn there. So with this, I'm probably going to use the trick that I used on the guitar, which is find that very last note. And we're going to try to pinpoint right about there, it looks right. So it looks like he kind of holds a little bit longer, so I might just move him up a little bit. And we're going to make sure that his video is dragged all the way to the left so that, you know, when we're at 0, 0, 0 here, we still have his video here. So now our left middle is usually our first trombone in a big band setting. So I'm just going to drag this out to the left or to the right there just to give us a little play. I'm going to find a section where he's playing and maybe just move him a little bit so that we get some good framing. And with his track, I'm just going to honestly duplicate this process because it looks like he has the audio playing in the background. And if we actually mute the final track and just play his track, you can see that he's actually just like lip playing or lip syncing to the track here to make his video look good, but he recorded his audio on a separate take. So just playing this, it looks like he's a little bit off, so I'm just going to move him up a little bit, and that should be good. Maybe just a little bit more. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so now we're just going to drag his video to the left. Now over here, we're going to have trombone 3 to our middle right. Simply just duplicating this process, and this is the process that you're going to need to do to build out every single sequence that you have, or every single sequence that you're going to want to have playing or be able to utilize in the way that we had built it out there. So this looks like she has some great stuff here that we can kind of line this up to. And that was super easy. So we're just going to adjust for good framing and repeat on our final, which is right, which is bass bone. So bass bone, I'm just going to adjust her framing real quick because, yeah, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to just repeat the process, come back over here, see how we're doing. Okay, so it looks like she holds a little bit longer there, so that looks good. So we're going to drag out to the left, and here we go. We are going to just close this bottom left one from our previous sequence. We're going to close our videos folder because we don't need that anymore. And we're going to come up to our 4 screens vertical. We're going to double click that. Voila, there you go. Everybody is going to be in sync when they're playing. Maybe let's go to a section where everybody's going to be playing. As you can see, our audio is all synced up like we like. These are some backgrounds underneath the solos. Everybody's lined up, and that's a beautiful shot. So as you can see, we already have our grid loaded on top here, and you can adjust this grid by going left or right to fill the entire length that you need it to fill. And one thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to our final video now, and we're going to take our 4 screens vertical, drag it out, and we're going to drag this out so that we have our full screen here. And as you can see, our audio is lined up and we have our bones looking good in our 4 screen vertical, and I can drag to the right our 4 screens horizontal, and our 4 screens horizontal are there. So that leads me to the final task that we have here, which is actually cutting up our video. So we might just do a little section here. We'll find somewhere where the trombones are playing. So our trombones are playing there. So let's just say we want our trombones to come in exactly when they hit. So just listen through the track, and this is where your creative freedom comes into play. And I've decided that I want the trombones to come in exactly when they're playing that line that I just heard a little bit later on in this track. So we're going to play until we hear the trombones, and that's when we're going to start cutting. So right there, I'm going to drag my audio back, and it looks like right here, this is where our trombones are coming in. So what I want to do is I just want to drag our 4 screens vertical, and we can rename these if we want. We can rename that trombones like this, and that'll show up as trombones here. And I can also rename our horizontal screens as rhythm. Section. There you go. It automatically adjusts here in your timeline. So what I want to do is, here's a shortcut for your keyboard, and you can press C and it's going to bring up the cut tool. So I'm going to just cut my rhythm section here. I'm going to drag my rhythm section out. So I only want to see trombones. And generally, like if I have both of these on top of each other, both nested sequences, you're only going to be seeing the top one unless you hide it. And if I hide it here, it's not going to be visible on V2, and you're going to see whatever's underneath of it. So I'm going to always kind of keep these open and visible, but at some point I'm going to want to go from rhythm section to trombones and then back to rhythm section. So now I'm going to use my creative freedom again and decide where I want the rhythm section to come back in. So we're going to listen a little bit, get into our rhythm section, and then go to our trombones, and I'm going to decide where I want to cut to then have my rhythm section be visible again. So right there, I think I would like it to cut back to rhythm section. So I'm just going to cut. I'm going to click V on my keyboard, and that brings you back to your pointer tool like this. I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to drag my rhythm section back. So as you can see, I'm going to play that whole little sequence right there. And then I want my trombones playing that really cool line. Now I might decide I want to feature, trumpets and trombones, and then I can use my 8 screens horizontal where I can have my trombones on top, or my trumpets on top and my trombones on bottom, and I can feature both of them playing this really cool line. But for right now, for our purposes here of just showing you how to cut up your video to make it pretty interactive and, go along with the music, this is what we're going to do. And right there, I think I want to cut back to rhythm. So I'm going to drag my trombones out, drag my rhythm over. I just pressed Command C to bring up my cut tool to do that, and then back to Command V to drag it. And basically, this is how you're going to look at it. So I'm going to zoom back out, and really you only want one sequence playing at a time, because you're only going to be able to show one sequence at a time unless you have this just being half screen. And then you can have two of these kind of playing at the same time. That gets a little bit more complicated, but by that point, after doing one of these videos, you'll know exactly how to do that just by adjusting your placeholder size. And we can go to adjust our placeholder sequence by just right clicking on it, and you can come down here to sequence settings and you can adjust it. So your full frame size is 1920 horizontal by 1080 vertical. So if we wanted one of these to be half screen, we can just type in 540 for vertical and click OK. Now that's going to adjust. There we go, trombone 2. So as you can see, then you can, go back into your trombones. I can go to my left and I can position him back up here. So that's kind of how you can do it for, making some other types of grids. And you guys can get creative with your nested sequences. You can get creative with your placeholders now that you know the process of actually creating these. But this is going to save time in creating pretty much any type of variation you're going to want up to 8 players. And then I've just included my personal big band sections here for placeholders as well, just because I know a lot of you guys are big band jazz fans. So that's what I use, and it saves me honestly 2 hours to 5 hours depending on the project. And that's a ton of time, and time equals money when you're editing these videos. So with that being said, this saves me a ton of time and allows me to take on more projects, more creative projects, and just build an awesome community that loves doing this and loves seeing themselves play with their community, even though we're not allowed to kind of get together in person to make that happen. So one really quick final tip that I wanted to share with you guys is, let's say that we didn't cut any of this, and what I'm going to do is just delete all of these, and you can just drag back out your nested sequences here, and it's gonna affect it like it didn't do anything before. So that's very interesting, just seeing that our trombone 3 is not showing up here. So let me go to a right middle, and yep, that's our mistake. So you can kind of backtrack to solve some problems as well. So now I've adjusted that. So now I can see at 0, 0, 0, she's still here. And if we go back into our final video, now she's here. So one thing I like to do is, when you have a ton of nested sequences kind of built out here, that's going to require a lot of power for your computer to play these through. So one thing that I like to do to kind of save that and save your computer is select all of your nested sequences here, drag them, I don't know, about a minute out, so that you're just listening to the audio here. Then you can just drag out whatever you want to see from the right, and then your computer's only going to be playing one of the nested sequences until you decide you want to cut and go to another sequence like this. So I'm just going to do this really quick to show you kind of the process of how that works and give you an idea of how I edit, just to save my computer, because there are a lot of videos here and that's going to take up a lot of time and a lot of power from your computer. So I'll edit like that, and sometimes I'll have up to 25 sequences here. So that's why I have 25 on both the video and the audio here. And just always make sure that your nested sequences audio is muted, because it's going to double the volume if it's not. Because remember, we went back into our nested sequences and used our final audio so that we're going to be able to line it up here. So with that being said, guys, that is how you edit a split screen video. I hope you guys can get creative with this and save this project. One last thing I think I would say here is that when you're in your project here, it's always a good idea to go to File, Save As, keep this template available, and then just save this as, I'm just gonna save this as split screen training video. and it's going to save this project as a new video. So I'm going to come back over here to my split screen producer's guide, and as you can see in my project template, I just saved that as a new project so that I don't affect any of my other ones here. So that's one way that you can save your projects and keep your template separate. So always have your template with no videos or anything in it, and then just open that up, save as a new project immediately to the place that you want to save it, into your projects folder within your larger, bigger project folder. That's the title of the project that you're actually doing. And then close down your template project so that that's always saved, and you're not going to have to delete anything out of that. You can just reuse that for each product or each project as you're getting more projects in or editing more projects. So that's the last tip, and please let me know if I can help you guys with anything else. Hope this was helpful in kind of finalizing our process here of pre-production, production, and now post-production. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys put together, and definitely be as creative as you want with it.